it is working on it. And we're live. Okay.
Yay.
Got lost there for a second. Hello, everybody. It's Tuesday, and that means it's time for a Branch of Laurels interview. And tonight, my guest is Sir Dom. I'm just going to say Dom because my mouth is not working tonight. From Atenveldt. He was laureled and pelled in the same ceremony and then knighted a little bit later. And so we're going to listen to his story. So we always start this off with how did you find the SCA and what drew you in?
So I was going to, this is back in 2004. I was going to the University of Arizona, and it was September. And I'm walking across the campus and was passing through the club fair. And then I just see this like pretty much older guy that I didn't recognize, but he was just looking at me, just doing this. And I'm like 300 feet away from him. And I'm just like, are you trying to me? Like me? Do I know you? So I ended up going over there, and then they were playing a little video of some demo, and there was he was the advisor of the advisor of the College of St. Felix, and then they had the seneschal there as well. And so therefore they just gave me the little spiel, said that there was that was like on a Tuesday or something, and there was a demo on Thursday. So I ended up going to the demo, and yeah, I just kind of fell in love at that point. And the funny other thing was, at the demo, I actually run into one of my someone I went to high school with.
And what was the demo? Was it fighting or was it arts and crafts?
It was pretty much all there. They had the fighting demo, and then they had a little like pop up that had people with arts and that. I mean, I was really just looking at the fighting, and it was just kind of meeting the people there.
So it's the fighting always that draws people in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, I just saw the fighting there. I mean, the the old high school friend started chatting there. She introduced me to people.
And so she was already involved in playing.
Yeah, she was actually the previous seneschal of the college.
Oh, wow.
As well.
So did she kind of bring you in and foster you into your going to your first event, or how did that happen?
Not really. Kind of just to happen. I started going to the college meetings, and then it was just it's like, oh, well, like that was like September, and the first event that at least was available, that was like towards the end of October, which was actually Dragon Sword local event. And it was a 2-day event, but I was only able to make it to the second day. So I ended up just getting a ride there, showing up, hanging around with people, like only for like maybe an hour or so. And then it was just like, I think 2 weeks after that was one of the local wars that our barony Triskathir and barony March of Monstonitrus was running, Southern Crusades. And so that's like, okay, my first event was like a couple hours at a 2-day event. And then really it was the war right after, which essentially Thursday through Sunday.
And did you go the whole time?
Yeah, I went the whole time on that. The funny thing is like, it's like, okay, it's camping. So I'm calling my mom, and it's like, do you still have the pop-up tent that I had for when I was in Boy Scouts? And she's like, yeah. So I got that and ended up setting that up, which it was, I mean, fairly old, and it was actually oxidizing. It was a red tent that if you actually just rubbed up against it, you'd get all the red on it. And then I was like, oh, it's a lot smaller than I thought. So I was actually like sleeping diagonal in a sleeping bag. And
because you're bigger, because you're not
exactly.
And were you in armor for that first war, or were you just kind of watching from the side?
Pretty much I was just experiencing, just kind of figuring out what everything was. I Merchant's Row, watched the fighting, and see, yeah, that was pretty much, it was just like hanging around with people and just kind of experiencing the SCA for the first time.
And what kind of took you to the next step of getting an armor and starting to make things?
So first time in armor was actually, so fast forward to about 2008, and that's when I was kind of looking into getting armor, looking into doing that. Ended up getting like a basic kit from Ashcraft Baker that my grandmother gave me for a birthday present.
Aw.
So it's like I started off, that wasn't that comfortable. I was just kind of, it was just there, and I only did a couple practices in that, but never really stuck with it. And then I started thinking, it's like, okay, I want to get serious. So then it's like, okay, I'm going to upgrade the armor, and ended up, it was 2008 Australia War, and I just got my tax refund. So it's like I put us so much aside for that to buy armor. And then a friend of ours, which was Crown at the time, uh, Duke Edward, which later became my knight. But it was just like I mentioned to him, is like I'm buying armor, and then he just kind of put his hand on my shoulder during one of the vigils,
So
and
cute.
just like, I will teach you to fight.
Aw. So
So
he
it's
took
like,
you under his wing and
yeah, and then we kind of I fought for like 4 or 5 months after that, and then it was kind of, I took a break because I was also planning my wedding at the time. And I was like playing the wedding, but I was also baronial exchequer. So therefore, and we have an event every month. And so therefore, there was always the whole, like, you gear up for the event for financial, you do the event, and then you gear down. By the time you gear down, you have to gear back up for the next one.
it's constant.
So yeah, so like the whole fighting in, like fighting actually in an event, I didn't really have that option as much because I didn't have a deputy.
Oh, so you had to be there the whole time.
Yeah.
Did you
And
meet your wife in the SCA or
I
was
did. Yeah. So I met her my last year. It was my second Australia War. Was right before that. Is she was joined the College of St. Felix as well, and I hung around with her a bit at the Australia War in 2006, and yeah, loaned her my cloak, which looked like a tent on her, and yeah, then we started dating right after that.
that's awesome. Is she
Oh, and also her apartment, or her dorm room, was right next to my apartment complex too.
very convenient?
Yes.
That's awesome. So you got to play together and
Yeah.
kind of share your journey. That's awesome. Um, so when Duke Edward kind of decided to bring you in, did that and were there people around him that also kind of fostered your arts or
So the funny thing with arts is it kind of did organically. So for the one thing is, when I took the time off to plan the wedding, I stopped fighting. I stopped going to Edward's private practice that he was having as well. And I think for a time, like I also just got burnt out like several years after that. But I was like, I took a 4 year break of fighting, and he kind of, I think, gave up on me.
aw,
I mean, I mean, we were still good friends, and that is just the whole thing of like, if the person that you're trying to help is not motivated, I mean, yeah, there's only so much you can do.
yeah, you got to
And
let people do their thing.
yeah, so I mean, like for the fighting wise, I'd started back up after I got authorized and then took the break. I picked up it back in 2012, and that's when I was like, okay, I'm going to be serious again. I chatted with Edward, and that's when I bought my Acer helmet.
uh
And that was pretty much, it was like, okay, if I'm going to spend $1,400 on this helmet, I'm going to be using it, and it's not going to be pretty much a mantelpiece.
and worth every penny.
But yeah, but so like for art wise, it's like, I mean, I just did things I enjoyed, and I wasn't really doing much artistic things for most of my early SCA. It was just the whole thing of like, okay, well, I tried weaving at the beginning and I couldn't get it. And then sometime after like 2012, when I picked up fighting again, I was like, okay, I need to do some type of art thing, just kind of balance myself out. And so I asked my wife, it's like, can you explain tablet weaving to me again? And she explained it, and then it just clicked. And it was
Awesome.
like, oh, it's exactly like programming.
I was
Since
going to
I do
say, when you have a mathematical mind, you can really get that patterning. It's the
yeah,
same
so
thing.
that's the whole thing. It was like after that it clicked, and I just started doing weaving and got like I went to Duke Ivan's class. He was doing a class at a collegium, and that was it was a make and take thing. So it's like, I mean, you paid a fee, and he actually made like a dozen looms in his wood shop.
Wow.
And that's pretty much just pay the fee, and you get some yarn from him. You get make something during the class, and you get to take the loom with you.
I'd be down with that.
So
That's
it's pretty
great.
much, it was like that's how I kind of like started going down that path. And then I just got a little bit more efficient at it, got better at it, and I kind of pushed others. Like I think I started weaving back up again in the kingdom. Kind of started that initiative. I mean, it was like, at least with the fighting crowd as well. Like I kind of just challenged a bunch of squires, and that taught a bunch of people.
Awesome. And you do brewing as well?
Yeah, so brewing, it was another thing that the funny thing is all my art seems to stem from Duke Ivan. Because I remember the like early on in my SCA the career was going to a local arts night, and he was teaching a brewing class outside of the school. And so therefore I just started getting interested in that. And it's like, okay, this is interesting. I mean, I didn't have space for it in the apartment.
Right.
And then later on, after buying a house, my father-in-law actually bought me a brew kit.
Oh, cool.
And so he bought me that. Really, it was something he wanted to drink. So therefore, he bought me for me to brew it so he can drink it too.
Make me some beer.
And so I started doing that, and I started just researching and investigating all the different things I can do, and started just kind of perfecting that a bit. And I just started doing more hospitality things. I started taking over like the pretty much the beer hall that we have in camp for like Estrella and that. And I started doing like 40, 50 gallons of beer for an Estrella war.
Wow. Do you have a favorite type that you like to brew? Do you have a specialty?
So I'm really good with my IPAs. I love doing those. And then dark, uh, pretty much dark stouts of some high ABV stouts. That was actually one of my first. So I like the first time I actually started doing brewing for, or at least starting to ramp up brewing for Estrella War for our household. It's like I did a high ABV milk stout that ended up being about 9.5%, 9.5, 10%.
Oh my.
And then I also did a double IPA that ended up being about 9.5%. And funny story with that is I told everyone what the ABV was. People claim I never told them.
Oh, it sounds like
Especially Duke
things
Ivan.
happened.
Yeah, especially Duke Ivan, which he was drinking it like it was 5%. That it was the day after setup on Estrella War. And essentially it was the Tuesday night. We just set up everything. It's 4 p.m. We got our camp set up, and then it's like, okay, it's now time to bring out the cold beers. So I set things up, and it was just really good, smooth. Doesn't really taste like a 9.5%. And he was drinking that for the most of the night. That 5-gallon batch of beer for that IPA was gone before midnight.
Oh, wow.
Because it ended up being we were the only kind of like thing happening that night. So therefore we had our fire going, we had beer running, and then we just kind of got all the bards kind of coming around, and
Awesome.
we were like the only thing going out on Tuesday night. So people just flocked to us.
That's not a bad thing.
Yeah. No, that's what we kind of strive for our camp is we want to be a destination.
Yeah. And uh, refreshments often help with that.
Yes. But it's like I like playing around with extracts and flavors. So like I mean, this last Astray I did a oatmeal cookie, oatmeal stout.
Awesome. A stout is my favorite. I don't really drink, but once or twice a year I'll have a stout. I like
Yeah.
it. It's tasty stuff.
Yeah, this one, yeah, tasted exactly like an oatmeal cookie.
Wow. So really sweet.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Sweet, it had all the different spices and that. It just
So you were recognized with your laurel and your pal the same day, which is kind of rare. um, and your pelican, it sounds like your big service passion is doing exchequer stuff.
yeah, pretty much think I've only gone a year without an exchequer warrant since I started.
And do you do that? I mean, is that what you went to school for? Is that kind of what you do?
Nope. I'm actually a mining engineer. And with background in computer software, so I do software for mine planning software. But it was like I remember the first time I actually took over for the baronial position, and the Kingdom Exchequer at the time asked us like, "What do you actually do?" And I'm just like, "I'm an engineer." It's like, "You're not an accountant? Why are you so good at this?" Because at the time it was like, so it's like I ended up being the college of exchequer for 2 years, and then I actually passed that off onto my girlfriend, now wife, which she doesn't forgive me for. But I ended up doing deputy baronial after that, and then like one Thursday night, I get a call from the current baronial exchequer, or current at the time, and saying it's like, "Oh, you're gonna have to take over for me. I got my girlfriend pregnant. I have to plan a wedding. So therefore, you're taking over for me now, not
Yikes.
in like a year and a half or something like that."
That's so nice to be asked. So like that.
I remember that whole conversation. It's like, okay, got the call, walked outside the apartment complex, and was on the balcony, just kind of walking back and forth, listening. And I'm just like, okay, yeah, I can do that. Yeah, I was your drop dead, so therefore. But yeah,
I'm here for this, I guess.
that ended up going to the whole like story from the Kingdom Exchequer, because it was like, okay, I have all the files. I already knew how to do the Doomsday Report, and I was actually the one that did the baronial ones anyway, for the at least showing the uh, actual baronial exchequer how to do it. And so that's like he gave me is like, okay, well, third quarter's due. So it's like, okay, well, ended up going to sleep and waking up like at 2 a.m. because it's like, I should get this done. So I go start doing the third quarter because it needed to get done then. And then I realized like the starting numbers are off. Okay, let me go back to the second quarter. Okay, the second quarter is wrong. Let me go back to the first quarter. First quarter is wrong too. So then I fix the first quarter to fix the second quarter,
Oh my
and
gosh.
then do everything on the third quarter and get everything balanced. And I send it off to the Kingdom Exchequer, and the Kingdom Exchequer is like, well, your first and second quarter match mine. You should have just asked. I had already the fixed copies.
Lesson learned, right?
Yeah, but so it's like I ended up doing baronial for like 2 or 3 years. Ended up also doing the Southern Crusades, my first war. I ended up being the war exchequer for that for 7 years.
Wow.
And 2015, I stepped up as deputy kingdom exchequer. And then 2016 or so, I ended up stepping up as Australia war exchequer. And so I
Wow.
did that for like 2.5 years for 3 wars.
Wow. And what year were you elevated?
2017.
Okay.
So yeah, it was May 2017, first weekend in May for our coronation. And So it's like I'm there. We had to do some book reviews, and so I'm doing one of the local one of the local baronies book reviews, because friend of mine, which was the Kingdom Exchequer, which he was actually one of my deputies at the baronial exchequer level too. He took over for me, and then he stepped up as kingdom. I didn't want the full kingdom position. I just wanted deputy to do, because I didn't want to be left. I wanted to fight in crown, so I didn't want to actually have to find someone to replace me in
Yeah.
case I won.
Yeah. Because I think that, well, yeah, you can't do both. So,
Yeah. So that's like, okay, I'm staying as deputy. And so I like, he was told like he had to be in court for something. So it's like, okay, well, I'll do the one of the barony's book reviews. So I ended up doing that, got the book review done, went into court, and brought the laptop in his bag back to him, and saying, it's like, okay, this is what happened, giving him the rundown. And so I was actually assuming he was going to be offered,
oh,
because that's what I was thinking, is like, oh, that's the reason why he has to be in court. And so then they end up, His Majesty Morgan steps down, Alanon steps up, and then they end up, he ended up saying something I didn't hear, and then they ended up calling the Pels up, and it's like, oh, this is when they're going to call him. And then they called the Laurels up, and I'm just like, wait, are they offering a couple? What are they doing? And then they called my name.
and you were totally surprised.
Yeah. So therefore, I just remember my wife pulling me forward, and I'm just trying to keep my one foot in front of the other as I'm stepping through the down the aisle.
Did your head just kind of go into a fog?
A bit. Yeah, because all I remember is just have to move forward. Just have to move forward.
I always
And then
black out with that stuff. I like it starts happening and my brain just leaves my body.
yeah, it's like, and then they said some words and people cheering. I mean, as soon as they called my name, like the whole crowd was cheering. And I actually heard people like saying that they should offer all three. And I'm like, what are they?
What?
And it's like people like talking about my service and my trim and that, and then people yelling out, it's like, and his beer.
How cool. So did you get put on vigil?
So I was so I decided I didn't want a vigil. I did a party, because in my mind, only a martial peerage should get vigil.
Okay.
So it's like I ended up having the Plorican party, which I brewed for, and yeah, so it's like I did special beers. There was a double IPA called the DP, double peerage,
Ah,
and that was all because of one of the past barons of our kingdom. After I after court was closed, and I went out of the hall into the actual main hall, like that court wasn't at. He came and congratulated me and says like, I've never seen anyone DP'd in court. And then he punches me and is like, get your mind out of the gutter, double peered. So
awesome.
therefore it's like, okay, I have to make a beer called the DP.
For sure. For sure. And you talked about doing a masterwork before we
Yeah.
went. Did you like frantically do your masterwork too, or was that already in process?
So the interesting thing was I actually had a long time in between offer and elevation, because
How long?
4 months. So it was pretty much, it was the only event that their majesties and their progress for our barony was in September. And since it was also a double offer, I thought it's like, okay, give everyone else a chance to do something awesome if they want to.
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool.
So it's like I had a little bit of time, and it was the next day I actually chatted with their majesties and said I was like, I'd be interested in doing a masterwork. And he was just like, they were just like, oh yeah, your knight said that you probably would be interested in doing something like that. And I ended up doing 2 masterworks, one for Her Majesty, one for him. So he got beer, she got trim.
Awesome. And is that sort of a tradition in Atenveldt to do a masterwork and present it to their majesties?
Not really. I mean, it's really up to the crown. Like I haven't seen it a lot. Like haven't seen it that often since actually my knight was crown.
But it was a thing that you thought was cool, and so you did it.
Yeah, yeah. It's like most of the ones that actually like were done before was the crown asked for a masterwork.
Oh, like an assignment kind of.
Yeah,
Uh, I I've been working on my masterwork for decades, so that would have worked for me.
yeah. No, it's like I ended up doing like the trim wise. I ended up doing a 500 the pretty much 500 5th century piece out of like Norway area from Overberg.
Should I pull the pictures up?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. That's in there, right?
Yeah, that was it's the blue, red, and yellow trim. Yep, that one. So yeah, that one, it's a float work piece. And pretty much, I mean, it's very similar to the style like from like Snardamo. And it's in the same time period and same regional area. It's the biggest difference is Snardamo does 4 colors and this does 3 colors. So you have one thread of one color, one thread of another color, and then 2 threads of the third color. So the 2 threads are usually the background.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I ended up doing that one, and I was actually thinking of doing Snardamo at the time. And I actually asked their majesties over like Facebook Messenger if they would be comfortable with specific like motifs. And since that's part of like Snardamo 5 and that, I mean,
Yeah.
the whole trim gate thing. And
Was
they never responded to me. So therefore I just opted to do this, which I ended up patterning out some of those type of motifs anyway.
probably a very wise decision on your part.
Yes. But yeah, but this was like, it's about a 31 inch repeat and like 590 pick repeat.
Wow.
Yeah, so I mean, it's like I ended up doing 5.5 yards of this, and I gave Her Majesty 3 yards of it, and I kept the rest.
Very cool. And do you use it? Did you put it on a coat or something, or do you use it
I
as
haven't
well?
actually put on it anything yet. It's still in the stash.
You just look at it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it's still in the stash. I'm not sure if she ever used it because, like, when I gave it to her, she's like, "I don't have anything nice enough to actually put this on."
She just holds it. My precious.
But yeah, but that's out of it's alpaca silk as well, so it's nice and soft.
Oh, cool. Okay. And this is a spoon.
Yes, that is the funny thing. So that was actually a beer. So we have another event in Triskathir is the God Awful Grail. It's only a tournament for non-belts for the hard suit wise, and then they ended up adding later on rapier and youth to go along with the tournaments on that. But it all started off as it's the Grail. It's an orange it's an orange god awful cup. It actually has pigments that aren't in nature. But it was just the whole thing of like, if you won the tournament, you got to protect the barony from the cup for the rest for the year until, and then get to like run the tournament the next year. And that was essentially the only job. And really, you didn't even have to run the tournament. You just had to bring the cup, and like I ended up wanting to marshal it after, but I ended up winning the tournament. And then the year after I won, I marshaled the tournament, but I decided I was going to do a beer for it because hospitality.
Right.
So
And
that's the god awful ale,
and
which
it's
is
kind of orange.
yeah. So it is actually it's actually an oatmeal stout,
Nice.
oatmeal white stout. I mean a coffee, oatmeal coffee stout. So it's like if you blindfolded yourself and tried the dark beer and this, you probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference.
Wow.
So it was also going along with the Grail and pretty much just being crazy. It was the whole, like, it was trying to mess with your mind too. So it's like I started doing that, and I do that every year
Ah,
that we have the tournament as well.
you
Which
make
this, I make the ale, and that's pretty much since the knights can't fight in the tournament. Now it's the whole thing of like, well, now they can drink.
because everybody needs a task.
Even the last couple years, I actually did orange glitter beer in it. So yeah, edible the gold luster dust added to the orange beer.
Nice. I have questions about that that are probably not appropriate to ask, so we'll just move on. And
Yeah,
this
so
is part of your setup?
yeah, that was one of the one of the first high ABV stouts I have made, and that needed the blow off too, just because it was very, very active. It liked to essentially pop the top and just explode out.
Oh, awesome.
Because yeah, that one ended up being 10%, and then I ended up bringing it higher later on. Now I have several that are like 11, 12%.
And do you bottle or do you keg? How do you package stuff for events?
Mostly keg. I bottle every now and then if the need arises. Like for the Masterwork beer, which I ended up doing for His Majesty for my elevation, I ended up doing a uh, a Russian Imperial Stout for that. Yeah, we ended up calling that a Black Hole Sun
Nice.
because he was a big music fan. So therefore, it's like, okay, well, let's do sun related and darkness related. So yeah, Black Hole Sun.
Perfect.
And I pretty much I told him is like that recipe is his. So I ended up bottling that and ended up giving like anytime he wants the any more, he just has to give me bottles and all because I've retired the recipe.
Oh,
So yeah, that was a belt I did for her the Majesty Liz. That's I think that was for first or second reign of theirs. So
I
that
love
one she wanted a belt, and I ended up doing so that's a Hallstatt 3 is the pattern, and I kind of modified it, so therefore I made it wider because she wanted a wider belt. And so yeah, I ended up doing that one, posting on like historic tablet weaving group, and I remember like ended up having like 300 400 likes on that.
I well the it's really beautiful the way you've got the gradations in the blue kind of outline diamonds where it goes to white when they join together. It's really
Yeah, so
striking.
that's actually that's a two hole pattern, so it's only 2 strings per card.
Uh-huh.
So
Wow.
yeah, so like for those ones it's either blue or white or yellow and white.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. I card weave a little bit, nothing this intricate. So I kind of understand it, but
Yeah, the only problem that I think that was with that one is at a distance actually looks more like a white belt.
oh,
So yeah, those ones were actually those were garters I did. That's using 62 silk. So that is maybe a half a centimeter wide.
wow. And is this your loom?
Yeah, that's the so I use a inkle loom
Okay.
that was made by Master Herveus of White Wolf and Phoenix.
There's a picture of you.
Yay. So yeah, that one I actually patterned up myself, and that was one of the 1 year at Estrella at the cancer tourney. That was one of the items I put up to for them to auction off.
Nice.
Yep, that was think that was the starting off of that high ABV stout that we saw earlier. That was it's still in the boil kettle.
Okay, and then we come to your ceremony.
Yes. So the box that's in the background, that was actually the beer that a couple of our household members brought in to present to His Majesty. But yeah, this ceremony was, yeah, Mistress Wander, a Viscountess Wander actually wrote the ceremony herself. And I actually had no idea what was going to go on. I just knew that she wrote it, and I walked in, like I was heralded in by Mistress Magdalene and Master of the Sim, the Master Sim of the Whiskey Bards. And it was they wrote up a little introduction thing, and he read it in pretty much recited it in Russian, and then she
Wow,
read it in English. So it was kind of a back and forth thing there.
that's super cool. So you were able to let go of the planning details of your ceremony, huh?
Yeah, that was her gift to me, was the actual planning of the ceremony. I just picked the people to speak. Yeah, so that's Mistress Ari, and that's her holding my Plorican medallion. So she ended up carving that out of ivory, and she did the wire weave on that, which is like, I think 32 inches or something like that, which is like the longest she can draw physically.
Yeah. Wow. This is great.
Yeah, it was a very, very hot day, and especially underneath the pavilion. And me wearing, if you notice that caftan is also wool.
And you are swearing fealty, I'm assuming.
Yes,
And do all peers swear on this? This is probably the sword of state, I guess.
yes. Hmm.
What's the tradition there?
So usually, I mean, it's people swear off of that particular sword. But I mean, usually for elevations, I've seen other people choose other swords, but it's mainly specifically that one. And it's like for elevations, it's just the person being elevated, and then for like other like stepping up, stepping down, or stepping up, swearing fealty, it's the whole thing of people up at the sword, and then people just putting their hand and connecting themselves to the sword.
It's a great tradition.
Yeah, and that's Count Brian. He's actually another brewing laurel in the kingdom. So in the kingdom, there's three brewing laurels, and so he was the second that I know of, and then I was the third. He thought I was going to get elevated for my brewing before he was, because he actually owns uh, Lonesome Valley Brewing in Prescott.
Oh,
So
cool.
it's like he actually does that as profession. But I mean, he's inspired me on like how recipes are done, and kind of played around with, and just having fun with some recipes. So I had him speaking for Laurel for me.
Awesome. It's great to have somebody who shares your art that you can rip off of.
Yeah, and if you go back in the photo, back
Hmm.
to that photo, then you can see. Yeah, so the back with the Captain America cloak pin, that's my knight, Duke Edward. Yep, he's the Cyclopean Duke, since he got his eye poked out years ago.
Oh my.
Yeah, fighting lifesteal.
Ugh, not good. Congratulatory hug.
Yay.
Sweet. These are great photos.
Yeah, that would be Vigilant Sigrid,
Oh, what is she on vigil for?
Pelican.
Awesome.
Yeah, so that's the Plorican medallion. So yeah, it's the carved ivory, and then the silver wire weave.
Looks like she's got a garnet set in it.
Yep, it's garnet and some amber.
Wow. Fancy. It's really cool.
Yeah, so that's like one of the pieces of regalia that I'll be buried with.
Yeah, I'm same. Not going anywhere. And
But
is
yeah, it was
she
very,
giving
very
you?
crowded. It was very, very crowded in that tent because we ended up separating like laurels on one side, pelicans on the other, because since it was the double elevation, we had a lot of people
Like double your
coming up.
normal.
Yeah. So yeah, this was the kind of things I was like, what is this? Yeah, that's Viscountess Wander right there on the left.
Okay.
So she's laughing because I'm just like, what am I doing? What you want me to like? Okay, there's a fire. Okay, what do
There's
you want
the
me to do with the fire?
light. That's funny. What was the significance of this?
I actually don't remember all that. The funny thing was, is like usually the person that like does video, like I actually didn't have anyone take video of the ceremony, which was
Uh,
on me, because usually like someone that normally takes video was heralding me in.
Very cool. Well, there are a lot of laughing faces back here, so it must have been.
Yeah, because there was the whole thing of going back and forth. Like there was the fire, and then there was a water element, a earth element, and a fire element. And like the water element was like what do you want me to do? There was like there was the rock portion, and Her Majesty was like holding it over my head, and I was just like, people are looking at us like she's just gonna smack him in the head with it. Hopefully she doesn't drop it. And I'm just looking up. I'm just like, yeah, there's a rock there. Okay, I'm listening, and then there was like water and like a little like pool, like kind of a vessel that they were going to pour water over like my hands, but I didn't understand what they wanted me to do. So that's like Mistress Blossom, and I was trying to tell me what to do, and I'm not gathering what exactly she wants me to do. I'm just like, I'm thinking I'm trying to take the water, take things, and it's like, no, just put your hands here.
Hold still. It's funny. Very
Yeah,
happy.
so it's like the double peerage or the double offer was the first time that happened in Atenveldt. And then we have my scroll, which was so the carving was Duke Ivan, and then Duchess Yanka, Ari, and a couple other people did the painting inside it.
Oh, so it opens up.
Yeah, so there's carving on the front, which that's essentially the doors, and then there's a carving on the back, which is kind of decorative, and then there's the inside, which is all gold leaf and paint.
And I didn't get a picture of that, so I'm sorry.
No worries.
And
I can probably ask my wife to go just bring it in here, and I can show it off on video.
Oh, that would be cool. I'm gonna stop sharing because we've looped.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd love to see it. That would be cool.
Yeah, she just heard me, so I think she's getting it.
Thank you. Hi.
Scroll.
That's awesome. So
but it was like the actual scroll text was in Russian and on like birch bark.
Oh wow.
Yeah, Russian style. So that's what you saw.
Right.
So the back.
Oh wow.
Also.
That's just beautiful.
And then. So there's the god awful grail. But it's like you have Raven on one side and with a little treasure chest. Other side, there's my pugs.
Oh, babies.
And then like
That's
the
beautiful.
center bit is the actual like embossed scroll text that you can't really make out from this, but yeah, but it was pretty much, they decided that they wanted to make it as awesome as like their as their counties, which were like the triptych type style. Since it was a special occasion, let's do something more special.
Yeah, super fancy. What a treasure. I think one of the coolest things about the STA is how generous everybody is with their art, and showing their support and love for each other through making fabulous things for each other. It's super cool.
Yeah. And then also, if you kind of can see with the laurel leaf around,
Mm-hmm.
there's actually one side that kind of looks like it's like kind of wheat and then like a hop.
Oh, that's great. Wow, so much thought.
And then at the top is my wolf, so my arms.
Excellent. And how do you display that at home?
It's actually above my center channel speaker above my television.
Awesome. And do
So
you
it's
have
pretty
it
much just
open
on
or do
this.
you have it
Yeah, I
closed?
have it open.
Very cool.
Yeah,
That's
because that's where I actually left the god awful grail open during while I actually had
Thank you.
it. Yeah, it's like when I had it displayed there, so anyone that showed up was like hissing because it's like you're supposed to be protecting everyone. It's like I'm protecting everyone. It's here.
I'm absorbing it, all of it. So, when you got put on vigil, did you have any expectations as to what it would be like to be a pelican or to be a laurel?
No, not really. So I did enough exchequer work, so I knew at some point I'd probably be a pelican, but I never really was going for that. I was a squire to Duke Edward, and it's like that's what I was like my main focus was, and I did the whole exchequer work because it needed to get done, and then I did weaving and brewing because I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And I'm just like I'm pretty sure like I wouldn't have gotten laureled if it wasn't for the exchequer, because during gate I would actually weave at pretty much at the table, and so I got a lot of foot traffic and seeing what I was doing, and then I would come over, I would explain, chat with them, kind of geek out.
It's a good way to be visible.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's like I never actually expected to be Laurel at any point. So that was a complete pretty much just like side swipe.
And did it take you some time to wrap your head around it?
Yeah, it's like that one I think I'm still trying to grow into. Because I mean at the time I was like, okay, my knight, he won his first crown unbelted.
Uh-huh.
But they ended up like people of tradition, it's like, oh, we can't have a king that's not a knight because then they can't knight anyone and things like that. So there was a big controversy over that, like the knight circle that just kept getting larger and larger and louder of them arguing that. So they ended up knighting him before he stepped up. And so therefore it's like, okay, well, technically he got double peered then because knight and
True.
royal at the same day. So it was like always like, oh yeah, it would be really cool if I got double offered, and I was just mostly thinking knight and pelican.
Ah.
And I actually had that conversation with a friend of mine, like driving back from an event in the northern Arizona one day, like a couple of years prior to that.
And it came, but not the way you thought it was going to.
Exactly. There were so many people actually trying to convince His Majesty Alanon to also knight me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, oh, you still have your chance. It's 4 months away.
So would you have any advice for somebody who is making that their goal to become a laurel and also a pelican?
Yeah. So it's pretty much, do what you like, do what you enjoy, and it'll come eventually. I mean, it might not be the fastest thing, depending on your visibility. But, if you have passion with it, then, that kind of joy is infectious.
Yeah. Yeah. That's one of my biggest pieces of advice too, is follow your passion and do what you love, and it'll come eventually. And
Yeah, like my wife is is an apprentice to her Grace Yanka. And yeah, so she's still on that path, and she's pretty much doing like she does all the sewing and null binding for me.
Oh, awesome. I was going to ask who does your null binding.
Yeah, that's like she's one of the few that still like constantly teaches the beginning class for null binding in Atenveldt. And she always like at Estrella War, she always puts has a class, and that always gets over attended. So therefore, Duke Ivan usually jumps in and helps her because he's the one that taught her.
Yeah, it's a really hard art to teach.
Yeah, no, it's like I tried to do it once and I couldn't figure it out. But then again, I mean, my thumbs are weird. I have
Yeah. Oh,
double
wow.
jointed.
Okay, put it down.
So therefore, like that's one thing is like I can probably figure it out at some point, but right there, that's like at least a step backwards.
Yeah, my first apprentice that was elevated for null binding, and so I learned it so that I could understand what she was doing and to kind of help foster her. And it took me a lot of tries. And I'm usually one of those people that I can pick something up pretty quickly. And I ended up just doing what was intuitive to me. And she tells me that it's one of the harder stitches, but it's the only one I can do because it's what my body wants to do. It's what's intuitive to me. So it's a very interesting craft.
Yeah, no, it's like she does that, and then she also does glass bead work and also other glass work.
Oh, very cool.
Like the last crown that we had before the pandemic, she ended up doing the consort tokens, which was a borosilicate stamped, pretty much a medallion piece.
Oh, nice. Very cool. So, you, a year after getting double elevated, you ended up getting your knighthood.
Yep.
11 months.
Yeah. 11 and a half months after. So it was still, I mean, it was sick. I mean, 15 and a half months after the first offer. But since there was the 4 month in between offer and elevation, and then I was knighted on the spot during crown tournament, fall crown tournament in Velt in 2018.
Awesome. So you're still wrapping your head around the first two, and then the third one hits. And so now you have all this time to adjust to it all, right?
Yeah. And like I only actually have like I just this Estrella before the pandemic, I took my first man at arms, but I don't have any other students on the other peerages.
But it seems like you're one of those people that just kind of teaches all the time, whoever will listen.
Yeah, pretty much is like I don't do actually well in teaching big groups. I do much better one-on-one.
Same. Yeah, I don't like big groups. It's too much.
Yeah, it's like I mean like the largest, I mean like I was able to do one of the Zoom collegiums we did at the beginning of the pandemic, and I taught mead making. Just, I mean, that was at least easier just because I was treating it like I was teaching one person, and I was doing kind of a before and after, or just going over the process and answering questions.
Yeah. Awesome. What else have you done to kind of keep up your craft during this pandemic time?
So yeah, that's, I mean, haven't been doing too much. I mean, I finished off one piece of trim that's been on my loom, and I started another one, but then more things came up, and I haven't actually progressed much on that because I'm slowly trying to work on doing the weaving I need necessary to give for a commission or a trade, because another Laurel in our household, which I mean our household. The funny thing with our household is they started off thinking it was going to be a fighting household, and it ended up being we have 8 Laurels.
That's awesome.
So
and
therefore
that's
we
your
have
household cloak behind you.
Yeah. So it's like we have the hedge of Laurels.
Awesome.
The hedge fund.
Are you doing pell
But anyways,
practice or doing anything to kind of keep up your fighting skill?
yeah. So I mean, yeah, going back of the trim and that. So I mean,
Oh,
I'm
sorry.
doing, yeah, doing have a trade going for my knighting sword for the one of the other laurels in our household that does uh black pretty much smithing.
Nice.
So it's like I'm doing, he's going to do my sword and I'm going to give him 15 to 20 yards of trim.
Cool.
But in terms of fighting, so right before the pandemic, I was actually in on tier for last year was every quarter I was in Vancouver, BC, so Lionsgate. And so I always brought my armor and I hooked up to them over in practice. And so I was fighting over at their practice
Oh, awesome.
uh, anytime that I was up there for work. And the last time I was there, it was got a ride from Duke Ulf, and it was December of 2019,
Uh-huh.
and I got into one little fight and ended up going from the left to the right, from left side to the right side of my opponent, and he stepped forward and latched his uh, knee armor that was knee and upper legs, and my knee, leg armor, which was knee and lower legs, latched together. And the next thing I know, I'm on the ground. I hear a pop, and I ended up actually completely tearing my ACL.
Oh no.
So it's like I ended up getting surgery on that in January. So therefore, it's like I was already having to recover doing PT and that. So that's like I wasn't able to fight anyway.
That's actually probably kind of a gift for you
Yeah,
because Ulf is a good example of not doing your PT properly and healing properly and
yeah.
having to pay that price. So that's great. I'm glad that you have this time to heal.
So it's like I ended up like I was back in the gym. The funny thing is, so I got tore the ACL, but I didn't know I actually tore the ACL. I thought I was actually meniscus because the way I was still moving in the gym, it couldn't have been ACL.
It's so
So
it's
I ended
so
up
scary.
so I ended up getting like the whole MRI, and then they said it's the AC. I was ACL and meniscus, a partial meniscus.
Wow.
But I was still going full. Pretty much, I had a knee brace on, but I was still going full on in the gym up until the surgery. But it was just like once I told my trainer that I was ACL, he's like, "And you've been doing all that still with no ACL?" And like, but it's like as soon as I got like once I got the actual full blown brace on that I had to wear for a couple like for a month or so, I was still doing upper body in the gym. And then once I actually got that off, then I was doing PT, and I was still doing like limited as things improved, limited lower body.
Good for you.
And so it's like now I'm back to like I was still doing pell work and that, but it's like now I'm back to actually doing a little bit more like in the footwork area. And like our household, we end up doing a dojo night, and with the pandemic that was canceled. But now we're friend that owns the dojo, we're kind of doing a weapon training class that's through their insurance. That's not like it's never been really SCA, but it was just kind of doing that now. So that's usually do that on Thursday nights, and then still pell work and such. So we're ready for whenever we actually can do in person and actually spar with others.
Yeah. Yeah. Numbers are going up in our neck of the woods, and it just feels like it's never going to end. It's just really depressing, but hopefully people will keep their distance and wear masks, and
Yeah,
we can get
exactly.
through this. Um, is there anything that you wanted to talk about that we haven't covered tonight?
I think we covered most of the stuff that. Oh, there's always the fun story of the Utherbach. So yeah, the Utherbach. I mean, I did a beer back right after. Like since my knight is actually His Majesty Uther of the West's brother-in-law.
Right.
Yeah, his wife is his Osa is his sister,
And they're
and
very, very close.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like up a couple years ago. My knight was up at visiting Uther for the holidays, and while they were drunk one night, I'm texting. It's like, oh, if Uther would like a beer, what type of beer would he like? Because I was getting ready for the recipes for Estrella. Because right about I'd start brewing the high ABV stuff in January 1st for Estrella War, which was mid to end of February. But so it's like, oh, he wanted a triple bock, so a German style beer. I'm just like, well, triple bock is not really a registered like competition style, so I can do a high ABV double bock. So I put together a recipe, and I was like, okay, well, I think I have this all balanced out in my mind for flavor profile and everything, and compensating for the high ABV bite. And it's like, okay, I can either do it at 9% or 11%.
Ooh.
So that was my pretty much. I said 9 or 11. It's like, oh, it has to go to 11. So it became This is Spinal Tap beer because it had to go to 11.
Because it's Uther.
Yeah. So I ended up doing it and made a 5-gallon batch, and I didn't tap it at Estrella until he got got to the site. And so he loves it. Everyone loves it. People are cheering like, yeah, this is Utherbach. It goes to 11. And so Saturday night of Estrella, we were doing a little scald night around the fire. And so I decided, it's like, okay, well, I'll tell somewhat of a story, but kind of just kind of a little performance thing. And I'm just asking, is like, if everyone liked the Utherbach, and everyone's cheering, they're cheering, it goes to 11. And then I just go deadpan. I'm just like, well, in good conscience, I can't actually make this beer again. And everyone goes silent.
Aww.
And Uther just like, what the hell? And it's like, no, Your Grace, I can't do this beer again. How many crowns have you won? He's like, a lot. No, how many crowns? Too many. No, how many crowns? 10. Well, this beer goes to 11.
Oh.
Which he describes it was a punch to his gut. And this was February. This was Estrella War. March was Crown.
Game on.
So it's like I will brew this again the next time you win Crown. And then like I will drive it up to your Crown tournament. I'll make 10 gallons and drive it up to your Crown tournament and give you more of this. And first I said coronation, but then he wins March Crown, which their coronation is the same weekend as our coronation.
Yeah, it's too quick.
So I ended up saying that like, okay, well, we'll do it as for the June Crown. But yeah, so I can say that his lady and the beer were his inspiration that day.
And have you brewed it yet? Because we don't know when their crown's going to be.
No, this was back in 2018.
Oh, in 2018. Okay.
So therefore, it was 2018. It was when he had 10 reigns. So he had 9. He had 9 reigns in the West and 1 in Antir.
Yeah.
And so therefore, his 11th reign was when he won March. Won March Crown in 2018. And so therefore, when he went and won this last one and came to Estrella War as Crown with him and Vera, I actually modified it and made it to a 12%.
Oh my.
But now I actually have a joke of like every single Crown tournament that doesn't go past, that we don't have, it goes up another percent. So I think I might have to start distilling it at some point.
Have you done that sort of brewing before? Have you done distilling?
I have not. I mean, I just recently, like for my for our anniversary, my wife got me a book on that, and so I was gonna look into doing that.
So
but yeah,
that's where you're going next.
Yeah. But
Awesome.
yeah, no, the funny thing was is once I drove up to bring him 10 gallons of the beer, and I'm telling the story of the Utherbach to uh, Viscount Sir Anton, which he was the one in the finals with him that crown.
Right.
And so he's listening to the story and drinking the beer, and then he realizes that I'm part of the reason why he's not crowned.
Oh,
So he starts cursing me as I'm telling the story. F you, F you, F you, as like I'm just continuing telling the story, and I'm just almost like trying to hold back laughter.
awesome.
But yeah, but that's, I mean, that was a fun beer to make, and I'm just like, yeah, it's his beer, and I'll pretty much brew it anytime he comes. But it's like I have to keep on upping it every time he wins crown.
That's quite the task.
And then it's like once it gets distilled, then it's like, oh well, now it's 100 proof. You have some catching up to do.
Nobody needs to win crown that many times.
No.
It just doesn't need to happen.
Well, I mean, he can drink. He would be able to drink that whiskey, and then just imagine he won all those crowns.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, no, that's the story of the Utherbach.
That's awesome. That's super awesome. Well, thank you for agreeing to interview with me tonight, and thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, it's been a lot of fun. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And I'm gonna take care of a little business. Um, we have my sister and I are interviewing my husband, Sir Octamasades, tomorrow,
Okay.
and we have some very special things planned. So it should be full of laughter, and he's really fun to watch blush. So look forward to that. And then next week, for the Laurel interview, I'm interviewing a lady from Ontario, Maria Kargashina. She does I am blanking on she does a lot of scribble. She does has done extensive research into temple rings, and she does little block printing, and she's a really amazing artist. And then next Wednesday we are interviewing Viscountess Gwenllian, so that should be really interesting. She's got some stories to tell. So thank you again for
Nice.
your time, and thank
Yeah.
you everybody for watching. And we'll say good night.
Thank you for having me.
Good night.